Hi, friends, and welcome to Costuming in Color, a monthly YouTube show dedicated to showcasing amazing costumers of color and those that support them.
I'm Gigi, a cultural history buff, historical costumer, and dabblist.
And I'm Noelle, a costumer who likes to play both sides of the historical and cosplay world.
Today, we are interviewing Erika.
But first, some house rules. The first rule of Costuming in Color is that you don't talk about costuming in color.
No. The first rule is that you do. Tell everyone. Also, let us know who you'd like to see interviewed.
The second rule is that kindness matters. Aside from that, there are no rules.
All right, well, let's get into it. Erika, where are you from originally?
Okay, so I grew up in California, but my family is actually from Hawaii, so I spent a lot of time there when I was little, and that's where we call home.
And where do you live now?
Right now I'm back in California. I tried a couple places. I lived in France for a couple of years, lived in New York for a couple of years, and they were really nice, but it turns out they get really cold in the winter, and I'm not built for that.
How was life in France?
It was delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ate my way through 2 years in France. There was a bakery around the corner from my apartment, so I would walk up the street and then to the right to get to school. If I turned left instead, right around that corner, there was a bakery. And every Monday I would stop in and I would order a box of 10 chocolate macarons. And then on Tuesday I would pick up my box on my way home from classes, and then I would eat them throughout the week, and I'd do it again the next week.
I don't even have words. I'm so jealous right now.
It was delicious. They started recognizing me as the chocolate macaron girl because I would do it every week. And at one point I came and I picked up my box early because my friend was coming in on a noon train. And so I went back in the afternoon to pick up a baguette for dinner. And the lady there was like, oh my gosh, your box is gone. Someone must have bought your box. She was like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, oh, don't worry. That was me. I came early today. I'm just back for baguettes. And she was like, oh, thank God.
That's funny.
Thank goodness. So, one word: cosplay, historical, or both?
One word. Both. Both is hard to say. It's hard to keep it to one word because I started in cosplay, but I really want to get into historical costuming. So I've started some historical costuming projects, but I haven't finished any to the degree that I'm totally in love with them yet. So I don't know if I consider myself a historical costumer yet, but I'm getting there because I love history.
I do historical through cosplay, so you can too. Yeah. What is the costuming scene where you live, which is coincidentally where I live?
Yes, you are 15 minutes from me, so I would say it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty chill around here. Luckily, we seem to be in a pretty accepting area. There's a lot of diversity in our area, and so thankfully the community has been really supportive and very interested in diversity and inclusion, which is really great because it makes it feel safer to go to events and stuff. There are a lot of cosplay opportunities. There's a lot of conventions and gatherings and stuff. And so before the pandemic started, I went to a Star Wars gathering and we were just playing around in Golden Gate Park, and it was freezing cold because it was February and I was in my lake dress. But it was so much fun to just be running around with a bunch of Star Wars nerds. And the costuming community here too is really cool. I'm really excited to get more involved with them because it's a lot of the Historical Costumers Guild and the events that they do and stuff, and all the peers dances and stuff that are all the historical themed dances, and they teach you historical dances and you go in costume and stuff and they play historical music. I'm really excited about those. I want to do more of them.
If you need a buddy, let me know.
Yes, we can drive up together and party at piers.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I wish I lived close enough to go too, actually.
You can fly down and stay at my house. I have a guest room. Just saying.
I have a sewing room to accommodate a human.
Okay. I'm going to take you guys up on that.
Excellent.
All right. Next question is, what is your internet handle and how did you choose it?
Okay. So I'm ErikaALaMode, and I chose it Okay, everyone thinks I chose it because I love ice cream, and they're like, "ErikaALaMode, so you must love ice cream," and I do. That's true. I am an ice cream enthusiast. But I actually chose it because I didn't have an Instagram when I started cosplaying. I just started cosplaying on a whim. And so when I went to the first convention, a bunch of people were like, "Oh my God, do you have an Instagram? I'd love to follow you. We can be friends." And I was like, I should make one. And so they convinced me to make one there at the convention, and I needed a name. And so my mom had gone with me because Disney is our thing, and it was the Disney convention. And so she was like, "Well, what if you did ErikaALaMode because you love Edna Mode?" And I was like, "Well, ErikaALaMode in French is fashion." And so I was like, "Oh, well, it could be like Erika's fashion. It's all nerd stuff, right?" And then people started thinking it was because of ice cream. And I was like, you know what? I'll run with that too, because I do love ice cream.
You know, when I first read it, I actually thought it was because of Edna Mode.
So, okay, it was originally because of Edna Mode, because I love Edna, and
Me too.
I'm working on a collection of Ednas because, okay, I'm really excited that she's half Japanese, like me. But she's fabulous, and she's sassy, and the no capes and the bubble suit, darling. It's just delightful. And so in high school, I dressed up as Edna Mode for Halloween, and ever since then, she's like been my favorite thing in the world. And I like quote Edna Mode at my friends at inappropriate moments as like inspirational things. I like whack them with newspaper, and I'm like, "Pull yourself together."
That's amazing.
It's not ideal, but I love it. It's my lifestyle, and I love Edna Mode.
That's awesome. If you do historical costuming, what time and place, what period is your favorite?
Okay, so like I said, I'm still getting into historical costuming, but I have so many designs, and I have very strong opinions on which eras I like and which eras I don't like. But I tend to gravitate towards the 3R eras, Renaissance Italy, Rococo France, and Regency England, because they all have a strong aesthetic that I can get behind, you know?
Yeah.
Agreed. I love all those periods, actually. So when you do cosplay, what type of characters do you gravitate towards?
Same with historical costuming, anything with an aesthetic that I can really get behind, you know? Something dramatic, like Ursula was my first costume, and she's just got such a look, you know? You feel just awesome when you dress like Ursula. And then on the flip side, there are also characters that I really gravitate towards who represent something or who I feel connected to in some way. Like Moana is a Polynesian hero, and she loves her people and her island. And when I first saw that movie, I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's me, it's home." And it was beautiful. And I know that like she's not specifically Hawaiian, she's more likely Samoan, but like it's still really cool to see a Polynesian princess and a Polynesian Disney character and stuff. And so I was like, I have to cosplay her. And then there's also like Padme Amidala, who has such a strong dedication to democracy and to human rights and stuff like that. And that's something I really connected to because I studied human rights. I worked in anti-human trafficking for years and stuff. And so those are issues that I felt really connected to. And so when I saw her character, I was like, yes, you also pretty dresses.
Can you tell us how you started in costume?
This is a weird one. I didn't mean to. I started costuming on a whim because I was on a plane coming home for Christmas at one point. And I was just doodling because I was bored. And so I drew this Ursula gown, and I was like, you know what? I want to be an octopus. That sounds normal. And so then I got home and I showed my mom. I was like, "Hey Mom, I want to be an octopus." And she was like, "No, that's weird." And so then I had this like strange 3 a.m. vision when I was the only one awake, where my octopus costume actually transformed from Ursula in her wedding dress, trying to trick the prince into marrying her, and then turns into Ursula, the sea witch. And so, of course, I woke my mom up, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, guess what we're doing?" And she was like, "Oh, God, no." But she always says yes to things because that's the kind of mom she is. And so we went to the fabric store and made my transforming Ursula cosplay in like 4 days because I had to go back to school.
Holy cow, that thing is amazing and super hardcore. I can't believe you made that. And I didn't even make this skirt in 4 days. Like,
It was probably a bad idea. I didn't sleep at all for like 4 days. I hadn't sewn since 3rd grade and I was in college. So it was like a really long time between never sewing and then all of a sudden I'm making a tentacle skirt and a transforming gown. So some questionable choices were made, but it was really fun. And when I went to D23, because I was like, oh, well, I need an excuse for this costume, right? So I entered it in the D23 Masquerade and I ended up getting in with it. And so I went to D23 and then everyone was really nice. And I was like, okay, maybe I should keep doing this. There are nerds in the world who like the things that I like. I'm not just a weirdo in my basement. I don't have a basement. But it seems like the kind of thing you would do in a basement, you know, like be weird and like Disney. And so I was like, it's not just me in a basement being weird. There are actually like people who enjoy this. And so I want to hang out with them. And so then I kept doing it. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, I'm costuming.
So what are your favorite parts of the costume to make?
Does the planning phase count? Because like, that's my favorite part. I'm really good at planning. I love doing technical flats and design sketches. I love sourcing materials and stuff. And I even love the patterning phase. I draft off slopers that are sized to my body so I can get really specific patterns because I just have weird body proportions, so it's hard to use commercial sizes, you know, like any human body. I don't fit commercial sizes, and so
no one does. No one fits in commercial size.
Who are those made for? It's like they're made specifically for a mannequin and nobody else.
They're made to fit no one, I think. So they equally upset everyone.
That's
it's a compromise.
You're good at that.
Yeah.
And so I draft based off my sloper and I love the drafting process. But once it comes to cutting my fabric, I'm like, oh no, there's an emotional roadblock and I just cannot overcome it. And then I stop and I start on a new project. And then I have 7 in progress Padme dresses because I just get stumped. And I'm like, oh no, we cannot cut fabric. We must take a nap.
I can relate to that.
I feel like that too. Yeah, totally. What aspects of costuming drew you to this / why do you costume?
I think I started costuming because I wanted to work with my hands more. I used to be really into art. I used to love painting and sculpting and drawing. And so I used to work with my hands a lot. But the more I started working in human rights, the more I started working solely in my head. It was very much a cerebral game. I was studying a lot at the time because I was in college when I started costuming, and I was doing a human rights degree, psychology degree. I was studying history, political science, international law, things that are all very much in your head kinds of subjects. And so at the end of days or weeks of work, I would just have a paper or a presentation or something digital, and it didn't really feel productive. It just felt so theoretical that I felt like I wasn't producing anything. And so after I made my Ursula costume, I was like, wait, I love working with my hands. I love making something and having a tangible thing that I've made after 3 hours of work instead of just like, here's another 5 pages of this 60-page paper I'm writing. Fun. And so then my parents brought my sewing machine out when they came to visit me for my birthday, and the garment district was just like a 15-minute train ride away on the subway because I was living in New York at the time. And so I could just hop down there and get tons of fabric and make crazy costumes. And all of a sudden I just kept sewing. And then once I started Lyme disease treatment, I had a ton of time on my hands, and it was sleep or sew. And so I do both. I sleep and then I sew, and then I sleep some more and I eat in between.
That's basically my life also.
It's a good life.
It's a good life. What is your favorite or most epic completed project?
Probably my transforming fairy godmother. That's the one that I'm really the most proud of.
That's crazy. Like I didn't know that existed until a couple days ago, and I saw it on Instagram and I was like, what?
I wanted to make that one actually right after I had the idea for Ursula. I was like, you know what? I have another idea for a transforming costume. I watched a lot of Broadway shows when I was living in New York, and I loved whenever costumes would transform on stage. In like the blink of an eye, they would be wearing one thing and then they would be wearing something completely different. And I really thought that was cool. It's like, that is on stage magic. I want that. And so I had this idea for a transforming fairy godmother because, of course, the 2015 live action Cinderella happened. And I was like, everything is so pretty and shiny and I love it. And Sandy Powell's my goddess. I adore her and everything she does. It's incredible. And I want to be her when I grow up. Except that I'm never going to grow up because I'm a child. So I wanted to make this transforming fairy godmother. And I knew that transforming Ursula was really fun, but I wanted to streamline the transformation process a lot. It was so many steps with transforming Ursula, so then with transforming fairy godmother, I wanted it to be very smooth. I wanted to be able to spin while I did it. I wanted to be able to pull a wand out of nowhere and stuff, and it was just very fun. And so I'm really proud of how that one came together, because the transformation for Ursula takes like 30 seconds to get through. The transformation for fairy godmother takes 10 seconds, I think. And so it's a much smoother process.
I watched that video 45 times in a row. Like, I just sat there watching on a loop going, wait a minute. Okay, wait, do it again. Okay, do it again.
A lot of people had questions on how I did it, and I really don't know how to explain it, except there's a ton of snaps. Everything is open and everything is secured with snaps.
I mean, it sounds like that might lead to some silly things happening at an event with like breakaway costumes. So tell us, what is the silliest thing that has ever happened to you at an event?
Oh, so related, because I was also wearing Rococo Foundation garments. But it wasn't actually in that costume. I was part of a Rococo Disney princess group at Rose City Comic Con with some of my friends. And so I naturally thought, well, who needs a small skirt when you could have a 6 foot wide skirt? So my grand pannier at the bottom is 6.5 feet wide, because I'm only 5'3". So naturally my skirt should be 1.5 foot taller than me. So I put pockets in it, and then I was like, wait a second, I have way more space than this. So I also wore a purse strapped around my hips. I had so much space under that skirt. So I was like a walking snack bar. And so a lot of the other girls didn't have pockets in theirs. And so they were like, oh my God, I'm getting so thirsty. I'm getting so hungry. Can we stop for a second? And I was like, wait for it. And I pulled out like some beef jerky sticks and some like Milanos and some water bottles. I was like, I came prepared. What do you need? And so I just kept pulling things out of my skirt, and it was kind of ridiculous because anything someone needed, I had Band-Aids, I had hand sanitizer, I had makeup, I had everything you need to possibly touch up your costume. I had a sewing kit, and things just kept coming out of this pannier, and it was so wide that it just started reminding people of like that Nutcracker Mother Ginger, because she has that massive skirt and all the children just keep running out of it. People were like, do you have like an army down there too? And I was like, well, no, but I have more Milanos.
What is your favorite costuming memory?
Hands down, Baby Moana. Baby Moana, the cutest little kid. I told you guys about this before, how I was dressed in my Moana, and I took a lot of time to make my Moana traditional and integrate a lot of like tapa stamping elements from traditional Polynesian dress. I changed the design a little bit to be a little less cartoony, a little more traditional Hawaiian wear. And so I was wearing this at a convention, and I kept hearing all day about this little baby Moana in a boat. And everyone kept telling me, have you seen the Moana in the boat? Have you seen the Moana in the boat? There's a Moana in a boat. And I wanted so badly to see this Moana in a boat. But it was the end of the convention day, and I was really, really sad because I was like, oh no, I'm not going to see baby Moana in a boat. And so I was sitting in the foyer with some friends, and we were just chatting before we headed out because it was the last day of the convention. And so we were like, oh, we won't see each other for a while. Let's just hang out for a little bit. And then I hear Moana, and I see these two parents pulling a wagon behind them, and it's got a big sail sticking out of it, and the wagon is decorated to look like Moana's boat. And there's this teeny tiny blonde Moana sitting in the wagon, staring at me And it was the cutest thing because the mom was telling me that he loves Moana. They watch Moana like once a week. He knows all the words to the songs. And so he came rolling up to me in his little wagon boat, and he had an oar that he called his spoon. And so he showed me his spoon, and it had the little heart and the Maui hook on it and stuff. And it was the cutest thing. And we sang together, and he showed me all his Moana toys because his boat was full of toys. He had a stuffed Heihei and a stuffed Pua and a Maui figure. And he had a Tamatoa pop vinyl figure, but the eye had broken off. So it only had the one eye, and he was like, this is Tamatoa, his eye broke off. And then he pulled the other eye out of the bottom of the boat, and he was like, this is his eye. And I just could not hold it together. I was laughing so hard. This kid was the highlight of my entire cosplay time. Like, it just made me feel so good to connect to someone who loves that character as much as I do. And the mom was like, he legitimately believes you are Moana right now. And I just love that so much because I never really felt like I could be a canon Disney princess because none of them ever really looked like me until Moana. And so I thought that was so cool and so amazing. And I think about that kid when I need to feel joy. I'm like, out there, there's a little child who believes I'm a Disney princess.
Oh, I love that
sweet.
story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
It makes me so happy. And I know I've told you guys that a couple times now, but it just makes me so happy that it is my favorite cosplay memory.
What groups and organizations are you in?
Until this year, I really wasn't in many groups. I didn't really know that. I mean, I knew that groups were a thing. I just didn't, know they were a thing enough to join them. But then this year I joined the Greater Bay Area Costumers Guild. And of course I only did one event because I started Lyme disease treatment, and that kind of knocked me flat. So I didn't do much, but I really want to do more because I love historical costumes and I love all the people in it because I've met a lot of them and they're just fabulous. So I want to do more events with them. And then I started with Rebel Legion this year. And so we started doing some events and we were having a lot of fun, and I was dressing up in Star Wars costumes and meeting a bunch of Star Wars nerds, and we were fighting each other with lightsabers. And then the plague hit. And now we don't do anything except maybe video chat once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What cons or events do you recommend going to?
I still don't know of many events. But the one that I really love is D23 because I love Disney and everything Disney themed. And Disney owns everything now, so it just seems like that's all encompassing. So I really liked the D23 Expo. I feel like that's always a lot of fun, and I feel like it attracts a good crowd. I feel like Disney people tend to not be the people that are like, can I breathe on you? At conventions. And they tend to just be very positive and very happy to meet people and excited about everyone's costumes and excited to be there and really cheerful and really friendly. They're not the like, I've always wanted to breathe on an Asian Princess Leia. And I'm like, what? Can you not breathe on me?
That's really gross.
I feel like that crowd just isn't a Disney crowd,
Yeah.
I feel like at the Disney convention, I meet a lot of really nice people. I also do WonderCon pretty regularly. It's smaller than San Diego, and it's less creepy than San Diego. San Diego attracts a really interesting crowd. I've done that one once, and I don't know that I'm going to do that one again. But WonderCon, which is run by the same company, is smaller, more contained, and a lot of fun.
And right next door to Disneyland.
Yes, anything that's next door to Disney. Because I need to get my daily fix of beignets whenever I'm in Anaheim, and it's really inconvenient if we're too far from that.
I need a churro, yo.
I'm addicted to the beignets, though. I have a beignet dance that you get when you get the bag of beignets and it's covered in powdered sugar, and you do the dance to get powdered sugar all over the beignets.
Yeah.
That dance? Okay, I didn't know it was a thing, but yeah, that happy dance that you're like, I have beignets.
Yeah, it's my beignet dance. It makes me feel good. And then I eat way too many beignets. But I only do it when I'm in Disney, so I feel like it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Disney calories don't count.
I know, right? You're on vacation, so they're vacation calories. They go away when you come home.
I'm all about the Monte Cristo. Don't even ask. Don't even ask.
Okay, so when you guys come to visit me in New Orleans, I will take you for beignets. Since I know that
Yes.
you like them, we should go to my favorite beignet spots, and I can see you do your dance. You can see me do mine too, because I have like a happy food dance that's kind of the same for any food that I'm happy about eating, which is
happy food dance.
yeah.
Excellent.
So who is your costumer crush?
This one was hard because I had to think of people that aren't you guys, and I love you guys so much and all the things that you do. So I love everyone who is in our diversity and inclusion panel. I feel like they're all so talented.
Link down below.
Oh, they're all so amazing and talented. Christine, I'd followed her forever, and I absolutely adore everything she does. She's just mind-blowingly talented. All of her embroidery is so clean. Her sewing is so clean. And then she makes those cute little costumes for her baby. And then she dresses up her husband too, and the three of them just look so dapper together. And she does all of that on top of being a doctor, and I'm just like, how do you have your life so together?
Christine's going to be our next interview too, folks. So if you're interested in learning about Christine, she's coming up.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. I am just in love with every project that she's done ever. And then there's Vivian Fresh Frippery. She does such incredible historical pieces. She did like a late Victorian bustle gown, and it was pink and blue and just so delicate and dainty looking, and it was just incredible. And she also does a lot of Star Wars costumes too, so she's like everything I love rolled into one person. And her Jedi librarian that she just finished recently is just so incredible. And she's a forensic scientist too. I'm like, how are these people so together and also make costumes? I'm like, I only have time to do one thing in a day, and usually that's take a nap.
Except bust out an Ursula dress in 4 days. So like, don't sell yourself short, babe.
I did that when I was young and energetic and tired. And then there's also Adrienne Wax Sealed Costumes. She is just incredible. She was actually one of the first people that I met cosplaying, because she was also at the Disney costume contest, and she ties together historical costumes and Disney so beautifully. She was in a historically inspired Esmeralda at the time, and she had made her own shoes out of leather. She just made shoes and then wore them. Like, that's an easy thing to do.
She does that. She does that a lot.
She's just like, I'm just gonna make shoes. And I'm like, are you human? Or are you like a shoe elf? And I think she's part shoe elf because her shoes are just handmade. And I don't know how people do that. And it's just amazing. And she does really good work. There's also like AJ, Confused Kitty Sewing, who does all of these incredible detailed embroidery designs. And she does all of these historical costumes, and she did that set for her family, and it was so cute to see them all dressed up together, and it was just the cutest thing I've ever seen, and I always love seeing what she's working on because it's always incredible.
She's also like the nicest and most generous person.
She's
like
so friendly.
She's so friendly. I mean, all of these people are so friendly, but she in particular is just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She actually is one of the reasons that I costume.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's made me so much more excited about historical costuming. Like, she was so helpful with this historical piece that I'm working on. And because, of course, the pandemic started, and I was like, naturally, now is the time to make a green silk robe à l'anglaise when I have nowhere to wear it and nothing to do with it. And I was just having the time of my life with this thing, and she was so supportive, and it was really great to talk to her through this whole process. But then there are also people outside of like the historical costuming community who I just admire and adore so much, like Alex Van, SoCal Costumes and stuff. She's like a Star Wars queen. She can crank out a Rey costume overnight. It's just incredible. She's somehow so on top of all of her costumes, and they're just always incredibly done. so detailed. Like Adria Renee, she just launched a line with her universe, like a Wonder Woman themed line, and she's coming out with another one soon too. And it's just, she does really incredible modern design work that makes you feel like geek can be fashionable, you know? And it's really cool to see whatever she's working on. So I admire so many people. It's really hard to just like pick a few.
Yeah.
I'll just list everyone that I follow. I don't know. Everyone's just so talented, and I love seeing what everybody's working on. But those are just some people that I'm always really excited to see what they're doing.
It's a really amazing community. What is your favorite theme song while you're crafting, or do you have like a playlist? What's on that?
Okay, so I'm usually listening to one of two things. I mean, obviously not both simultaneously. It's either an audiobook. I just finished Queen's Peril because it's the Padme Amidala book, and, you know, aesthetic Padme. She's my life. I adore her. I want to become her. One day I'm just going to wake up and throw out all of my clothing and wear nothing but Padme outfits to the grocery store and scare some muggles. I don't know. It'll be great. Or I listen to a lot of show tunes because that's the type of person I am. I like chill out in my sewing room blasting Disney music or Wicked or Waitress or The Great Comet or Phantom, something Broadway that you can sing really loudly to, and it's really obnoxious for everyone else in the house who's trying to take a nap or get work done or just live a normal human life. And it's gotten to the point where I'm pretty sure my family knows all the words to all of these musicals, not by choice, but because I listen to them nonstop.
I'm walking around my house screaming, I am Moana, all the time.
It's just, there's, like, what is the point of normal music when you could listen to show tunes, you know?
Yeah.
It's story and music, all in one.
So aside from the music that inspires you, what people inspire you?
When it comes to sewing, really my mom and my grandma. My mom is the one who taught me to sew when I was little. I remember in preschool we would make pillows and quilts and stuff, and I thought it was so creative that all of a sudden this fabric could turn into a star-shaped pillow, or something cute like that. And so I had a bunch of like homemade pillows when I was little because I would just make like weird fleece shapey pillows. And then my grandma, actually, her family ran a tailor shop in Haleiwa for generations. It was the H. Mura store, and surfers would come from all over the place to get custom H. Mura store surf shorts. And so she had this book full of all their measurements. And at one point she was flipping through it with me and she was showing me all the famous surfers that would come to the shop. And she'd be like, this year he gained 3 inches around his waist. He got fat. I was like, Grandma! It was really funny because she could track her clients over like their entire career. And then gentrification in Haleiwa forced the tailor shop to shut down, but it's really fun to be able to carry on that tradition because it's like having a bit of my family's history with me when I'm sewing.
Who have you mentored or helped along the way?
Oh, I don't know that I would ever really consider myself a mentor, mostly because I don't really know what I'm doing. I am very much the fly by the seat of your pants type person. I make things up as I go, and I learn by trial and error, and I hope for the best.
That's a good thing to tell people to do.
Well, it's not always very helpful when people ask for help, and I'm like, I don't know how I did that. I tried it 6 different ways, and one of them stuck.
I literally tell people, just try.
That's kind of my best advice. Just try it and hope for the best, and if it doesn't work, try again. Well, people message me a lot asking for advice on a costume that I've made that they want to make. Like the lake dress is a big one that people want help with. A lot of people have been messaging me about the picnic dress, the Padme picnic dress, because that's one that I'm working on right now. So they message me asking for help with this costume that they're working on or advice on something that I've already made that they want to make. And I don't really know if I'm the best person to help because, like I said, I never really know what I'm doing, but I do my best to try and answer questions. But it's gotten to the point now where so many people message me asking for help And I'm so happy that people think that I'm good at this enough to want my help. But sometimes people message me with like, how did you make this? And I'm like, well, that costume took me 6 months to make. Can you be more specific? So it's gotten to the point where I can really only answer specific questions like, how did you dye that fabric? Or like, what pattern did you use for this thing? Kind of a question. Because if it's just, can you recount 6 months of work to me? I'm like, I don't really know how to do that for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue into, how do you think we can be better mentors for our community?
Like I said, I don't know that I'm the best person to mentor anyone, because my version of knowledge is very much, I Googled this and this seems to be a good idea. But I do my best to try to share information, because I don't consider costuming a competition. I don't really think that it's about who does it better or who wore it better or who looks more accurate, or screen accuracy versus personal interpretation. I don't really think that it's about that kind of an element. And I know that there are people who aspire to those sorts of things. And like when it comes to Star Wars costuming, I really love screen accuracy, because I think it's a personal challenge for myself, but it's not something that I would enforce on anyone else. And I think that if we stop viewing costuming so much as a me versus everyone else and sort of like a me and everyone else thing, then we can really be more collaborative with our work and what we're doing, and it can create more community. I always tell my friends that sewing is a team sport, and so out. Yeah, like sometimes you need someone to help you fit the back of your bodice, just because you're not an owl and your head doesn't turn all the way around, and so it's really hard to fit the back of your bodice.
Also, a rising tide raises all boats, yo.
Exactly. Like, we can all improve together if we all work together. And if we stop viewing everyone else as infringing upon our territory and rather as building on what we have. And so I always try to enforce this idea that we should support each other and support new costumers and cosplayers. Everyone's learning, everyone's just trying to do their best. And I found that when I got started, it was really scary to put myself and my work out there. It feels very vulnerable to put your stuff out there open for criticism. And so I was worried when I went to my first event that I was just going to be some weirdo and that people weren't going to like me or my work, and that I would be judged. But because people were so friendly and so welcoming and so supportive, it made me want to costume more. And so that's something that I think, not necessarily as a mentor, because I don't know if I view myself as a mentor, but as a costumer with a bit more of an established work
portfolio,
I guess. Yeah, that's something that I try to make available to all of my followers, to all of my friends, to people that I meet at conventions. Just being friendly, being supportive, being willing to be willing to share information. Just, do away with elitism and cliques and just be supportive and be friendly, because, like you said, a rising tide raises all boats. And also, just share information. Sometimes information is hard to get.
Yeah.
I love preposterous historical hats. I think that they are the most delightful thing. I think some of them are just so ridiculous. But there's not a lot of literature on the calash bonnet, the convertible of headwear. Top up, top down, top up, top down. It just looks so ridiculous. It's like a telescoping covered wagon for your head.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. And so when I mentioned my passionate love for the calash bonnet at our last panel, people started messaging me. They were like, hey, we have a workshop on making a calash bonnet, or I have pictures of historical calash bonnets I can send to you and stuff. And so they were just so willing to share that knowledge with me. And I was really excited about that, because a lot of them were more established than I am. They have more knowledge than I do on these particular things. And I just thought that was really cool. And other people love how ridiculous this hat is.
What is your favorite inspirational quote, and who is it by?
Okay. this one's hard for me because I collect quotes. I've always really liked reading the words of established figures. I feel like they put the world in a context that helps me to understand it. And so I collect quotes. I went through a calligraphy phase, so I could just write down a bunch of quotes that I liked. And some of them mean a lot to me. Like there's this Albert Einstein quote that I love that talks about how like the world is in greater peril from those who tolerate or encourage evil than from those who actually commit it. And to me, like as a human rights major, that was really meaningful because we have to take action. Our complicity, our silence, our tolerance of evil is in some ways more impactful than the people who are actually committing these crimes. There's also like quotes from the Dalai Lama that I love, like compassion is the radicalism of our time, which I thought was so moving because it's hard to be compassionate in a world like this, in a world so infinitely connected because of social media, but also so infinitely separated by it. It's so hard to feel tangible emotional connections and to genuinely care about others in this time. And so I think that compassion is a radical notion. And so there are these quotes that make me think about the world and how the world works and how we can be better people. And then there are also some quotes that I keep because I just think are hilarious, like Sylvia Plath, you know, out of the ash I rise with my red hair and I eat men like air. And I'm like, Lady Lazarus, I don't know that I fully understand this one yet, but I like it. It just sounds dramatic. But I think the quote that really comes the most in handy for me is actually from the 2015 Cinderella, the have courage and be kind. Because that really does get you far in life to be brave in what you do and be kind while you do it.
If you could give new costumers one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just try it. Just try it. Like, there's always going to be that project that you think, oh, well, I'm not ready to do that. Or, oh, I'm too scared to start on that. Oh, I don't think I have the skills for that. Just try it. When I first started costuming, I did not know a single thing about what I was doing. And one of the first costumes I made was the Padme Lake dress, because naturally, it was a dress that I've wanted my whole life, and therefore I was going to have it, whether or not I was prepared for it. And you know what? I didn't make it as perfect as I wanted. I had to re-dye that dress 4 times. By the 4th time, I cried halfway through doing it. I was like, you know what? I'm furious with this thing and I never want to touch it again. So I put it away and I didn't work on it for a long time after I finished dyeing it. But then I came back to it and I finished it. And even then I didn't finish it to like a screen accurate standard, which not important, like we said, but because I wanted to do it for myself, not for anyone else. I came back to it and I was like, hey, I'm going to redo the jewelry. I'm going to add the details that are going to make it screen accurate. And I'm going to feel good about that because that's a dress that I've always wanted. And so I did. And now I'm really happy with it. I was really happy with it then too. And so I found that if I forget about perfection and focus just on doing my best work right here and now, then I'm going to have a costume that I'm happy with. And so looking back on my early projects, I see so many things that I would have done differently. And sometimes I do go back and redo them, like with the lake dress. And then there are other ones like Ursula that I know I would do differently, but I haven't redone it yet. And I still wear Ursula and I'm proud of them and I'm proud to wear them because they were my best work at the time. And so I pushed myself. I know that it was a big challenge for me. And so even though it's not my best work now, it was my best work then. And so I'm still really proud of that. And I'm really happy with it. It made a big presence for me. It made a lot of friends for me. It made me feel confident. And so, you know what? Just try it. Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about it being like the best possible thing that you could ever make. Just worry about doing your best work right now. Whatever you can do, just do it.
Lastly, do you have any messages of inclusion or equality that you would like to send out?
I don't know that it's a super impactful message, but this was something that we had talked about in the past. Like, as a person of color, not everything I do and not everything I think about is defined by the fact that I am Asian. I don't go around my life making choices because I'm Asian. I just make choices because I'm a person with interests who likes some things and doesn't like other things. And so while being a person of color has impacted my life and who I am in a lot of ways, and it does make me more hesitant to do some things, it makes me scared to do other things, it does not define who I am. And it doesn't define other people of color too. We are just normal people. And though current issues have made it such that race and racism are highly salient issues right now, for a lot of us, this is not 100% of our lives. We still want to watch Disney movies. And like, yes, we can acknowledge that a lot of them are pretty problematic, but we still just want to enjoy things. Like, we just want to have fun and make friends and just be normal people and be treated like normal people too. And so it's just like,
because you are normal people.
Yeah, we're just, at the end of the day, we're just humans who just want to have fun and live a good life. And I think because of the current political climate, it seems like so much of life for Black and Indigenous and people of color, it seems like so much of our lives is defined by race and racism. But really, that's just our external lives, our political lives, our social lives. We as people are still just people. And we just want to make friends and have fun and rant about the calash bonnet and Edwardian hats. Who puts a whole bird on a hat and is like, yes, this is fashion?
Hey, that was started by the Victorians, yo.
I know, but also like it started with like a wing here or like some feathers, a single wing, but then all of a sudden the whole bird, and like Edwardian hats are bigger than a human. It doesn't make sense.
It's a great sunshade. Like, you can go anywhere and stay perfectly shielded.
It's like a beach umbrella. You could just put it on a stick and like camp out beneath it.
They didn't want to carry around the pesky parasol anymore.
I guess so, and you don't have to when the Titanic is like not just a boat, it's also your hat, because your hat is so big. You could carry a pizza on that thing.
Oh.
I just have a lot of strong feelings about historical headwear and the things that people have done to their heads. Like, have you seen 1830s hair? It's like Whoville.
It is.
But Whoville with poofy sleeves.
No, that's not poofy. That's extraordinary sleeves. Just ridiculous.
Like, your sleeves are bigger than your hair, and your hair is such a statement when it sticks straight up the top like a troll doll.
Can I remind you that you made a 6.5 foot wide gown?
Yes, that was a little ridiculous. It was kind of fun to get into a car to get to the convention because my hair was also like a foot tall because, you know, Rococo hair.
It's got to be proportional.
So I rode to the convention, slouched down in the back seat because I took up all 3 seats and my hair was touching the roof of the car.
Been there.
Yeah.
Pictures or it didn't happen. I want to see a picture of that.
Wait, I think I actually have a picture. I can send it to you.
Okay, we will make sure to post that picture.
Yeah, I think I have a picture of me crammed into the car going, what did I do to myself? I had to take the busk out of my gown because I had to slouch down that hard and the busk was just getting in the way. Oh my goodness. It was rough, but I loved it. And I really want an Edwardian hat. I want a lot of Edwardian hats. I also want a calash bonnet.
Now I want an Edwardian hat, but I haven't gotten there yet because I'm still a beginner. So one day, and I'll ask you about. It's a deal.
Historical hat collection. I love hat boxes. There's something so delightful about round boxes, you know?
The promise of organization.
I don't know, because round boxes are really hard to stack together. So you would think that if I liked organization, I would have gone for rectangular boxes. But there's something so delightfully frivolous about a round box with a little satin rope on it that you can carry a big hat in.
I completely agree.
Felt like we need more hat boxes in the world.
That might be my favorite quote from this whole interview. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Erika. It was lovely to get to know you a little bit better today. Also, thank you to our viewers for joining us. We'll leave a list of Erika's information down below so you can follow her on all the social media platforms. Please join us on our next episode where we will be interviewing none other than Steen, also known as Christine.
Please do give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't. And if you have a costumer of color that you think we should interview, please leave them in the comments down below so that we can get in contact with them. And also leave a little love for Erika. Bye, everyone.